Welcome to the Blanco Wellness Podcast. Thank you for being here. Take a breath. And just for this moment, before we begin, simply notice where you are. Not where you have been, not where you are going. Here, if there is one recognition that sits quietly beneath almost every wisdom tradition, across cultures and centuries and entirely different starting points, it is this one. The life you are looking for is happening right now, not in some better arranged future, not recoverable from the past. Here, in this specific and unrepeatable moment, which is the only moment that actually exists. And yet, if you observe the mind honestly for even a few minutes, you will notice that it is almost never there. One moment, it is replaying a conversation from last week, turning it over for what feels like the 100th time. The next, it has moved 3 weeks ahead into a scenario it is convinced requires advanced preparation. Then it is somewhere in the middle distance, not past, not future, just generally elsewhere, generating its continuous commentary on everything except what is actually happening right now. The body stays, the mind travels, and between the body that is here and the mind that is almost always somewhere else, a whole life can pass largely unattended. A man spent decades searching for happiness through the usual routes: travel, achievement, accumulation, the careful arrangement of circumstances. None of it quite delivered what he had expected. Eventually, he found a sage and asked, plainly, where happiness could be found. The sage looked at him for a moment, and then pointed at the ground directly beneath his feet. The man was confused. Here? The sage said. Where else could it possibly be? The answer sounds evasive until you actually sit with it long enough to understand what it is pointing toward. Life does not happen in the future you are planning for or the past you are processing. It happens in the moment you are currently in. The only moment where anything is actually occurring, the only moment where experience is available, the only moment where genuine action is possible. The Buddhist tradition was unusually direct about why presence is so difficult to sustain. They identified the wandering mind not as a failure of discipline, but as one of the most consistent features of untrained human consciousness, the natural default toward anywhere but here. The past provides material for regret or nostalgia. The future provides material for anxiety or hope. And both feel somehow more important, more worth attending to, than the specific and unremarkable present moment. Yet the past is unchangeable, and the future is not yet real. Which means that the enormous portion of most people's mental lives spent in those territories is spent somewhere where nothing can actually be done and nothing is actually happening. The present is the only place where life occurs. It is also, consistently, the place where the least attention goes. Think about anxiety. Nearly all of it lives in the future, in the projected scenarios and imagined consequences and hypothetical difficulties that have not yet arrived and in many cases never will. Think about regret. Nearly all of it lives in the past, in the decisions and conversations and directions that cannot now be changed. Both experiences are genuinely painful. Both are generated almost entirely by the mind's departure from where it actually is. When the mind returns to the present, to the actual room, the actual breath, the actual moment, neither anxiety nor regret can fully maintain themselves, because neither of them exists here. Here, there is generally only what is actually happening, which is almost always more manageable than what the mind was predicting or replaying. The Taoists found in the natural world their most consistent teacher on this. A tree is always present, not because it lacks the capacity for worry. It lacks nothing. It simply is what it is, in the moment it is in. A river participates completely in the current moment, without spending energy on what the water was doing upstream or what it might encounter downstream. Everything in the natural world fulfills its nature in the actual present conditions, rather than in an imagined version of them. This is partly why time spent in nature so consistently produces a quality of peace that is difficult to produce through any other means. Not because nature removes your concerns, but because it models so clearly and so persistently what full presence actually looks like. A teacher was asked by a student for the single most important teaching. The teacher said, "When eating, eat. When walking, walk." The student, expecting something more elaborate, was frustrated, the teacher observed. Most people eat while thinking and walk while worrying. Very few simply eat, very few simply walk. The simplicity is the teaching, full presence to what you are doing, actually being inside the experience rather than thinking about something else while the experience occurs, transforms the quality of everything it touches. Not because the experiences become more extraordinary, but because they are finally actually received. The meal is the same. The walk covers the same ground. What changes is whether anyone was there for it. This quality of presence, which sounds simple and turns out to be one of the more demanding practices available, has a consistent side effect worth noting. Life begins to feel larger. Not because more is happening, but because more is being noticed. The morning light at a specific angle, the sound of rain on a surface you have heard rain on hundreds of times without attending to it, the way someone's face changes when they say something they genuinely mean. These things were always there. They arrive fully only when attention is actually present to receive them. Most people are waiting for something extraordinary to justify genuine attention. The extraordinary and the ordinary turn out to be separated primarily by the quality of the receiving. As we close today, the invitation is a practical one rather than a philosophical one. Sometime in the next hour, return to where you are. Not permanently. The mind will wander again, it always does, but once, briefly, with genuine intention. Notice this specific room, this specific light, this specific breath, this specific, unrepeatable moment, not as a technique, not as a box to check in a mindfulness practice, but as an honest act of showing up for the life that is already here. Because it is here, it has always been here. And it is passing, as it always does, whether or not anyone is present for it. Thank you for being here with me today. Until next time, be well.